focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. Welcome to another episode of Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo, and of course, I'm your host again, bringing you some of the most amazing people in the world. We're talking health, wealth, business success, anything under the sun to help you have the true life that, you know, the greatest life that you could ever put together. We have our guest today. His name's Joel Greene. He's the creator of VEEP Nutrition System, the world's first commercially available program based on targeting gut communities to affect health and body composition. He's an author, speaker. He's been on Dr. Phil, and he wrote a book called The Immunity Code, the new paradigm for real health and radical anti-aging. So, hey, Joel, thank you so much for being here today, man. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's going good. You know, I really feel very blessed during these very hard times that we're in. So, it's going good. Yeah.
Well, good. So tell me, like, I'm just going to get right down to it, man. I mean, like, what's the gut revolution, or what's the gut community? What does that mean?
Well, what we're referring to is the idea that, in essence, we have what we could call symbionts, or creatures that live in our gut, our gut bacteria that are, in essence, can be highly health promoting or can be pathogenic in nature, and that the thing upon which all of it turns is the idea that these communities in our gut are quite steerable, meaning that we can steer them in the direction that we want. And kind of high level, there's a thing called an enterotype, which is a profile of a certain profile of bacteria, is the best way to think of it. And when we look at the leanest, healthiest, longest lived people in the world, it looks like they all have some similarities between profiles of gut bacteria, and two bacteria in general stand out. One of them is called Akkermansia mucinilpha, and another one is the family of bifidobacteria. And we find that these long-lived, healthy, lean, that person that can just seem to eat anything and they don't get fat, well, they all tend to have ample amounts of both these bacteria. So the outcome of that really is some pretty powerful things that we can affect, things that are immediately realizable, like for example, cravings is a big one. And once you learn how to control and steer the bacteria in your gut, kind of the powerful thing is that you don't have to fight cravings anymore. You don't have to deal with that anymore. You just steer the bacteria in your gut, and then the dominant species in your gut is going to crave or drive your cravings in the direction of whatever they want. And that's sort of like an immediate thing. And probably more far-reaching, more far-encompassing, really gets to immunity, and it gets to how long we live, and in terms of learning how to, it's not dieting, it's really understanding that there's a skill involved in steering different communities of bacteria in the gut and how to do it. And so that's kind of a quick summary of it, I would say.
That's awesome. I love learning about that kind of stuff because, look, the truth is, and again, I could be completely wrong, but I always thought about my body as like a trash can. And if I could just keep emptying the trash all the time, I feel like my body's going to, obviously I've never been overweight or anything like that. And I've maybe a high metabolism or whatever. But the point is that with gut health, you kind of are always kind of cleansing your body. Am I wrong in that, or am I right, or where am I at on that?
No, I think that's probably a very good analogy. Once again, the thing to understand is that the gut and immunity are sort of one and the same. You can't really talk about immunity without talking about the gut, because if you look at where immunity began in the body when you were a baby and how it first got started, a couple of suspects quickly pop into the frame, and one of them is breast milk, and then the other one is food, the substrate that you were taking into your body. And what we come away with when we start to look at how things kind of came to be in your body is that in the lining of the gut, a lot of the immunoglobulins and things like secretory IgA and a lot of the immune defenses in your body kind of first came into being in there. And it's not like a static proposition. They can wax and they can wane, they can improve and they can worsen. So understanding that the power to steer immunity has a lot to do with the power to steer the health of the gut. They're one and the same. And so that's a kind of a big takeaway.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So we're going to talk a lot about health and wealth and all that good stuff today, but I want to kind of go back in your past and find out a little bit about you, where you started, where'd you, okay, this is the question I like to ask everybody is, where'd you grow up and what did your parents do?
Oh my gosh. Well, mine would blow your mind. So mine was, I spent the first half of my life in Seaside, California, which is a little small town next to Monterey. And my parents actually divorced when I was 3, like in the 1960s. And we were just dirt poor. We lived in a like a black housing project. It was the only thing my mom could afford. It was like $50 a month, you know. And we grew up kind of in like a really tough environment. And so I saw a lot of things, you know, growing up there. A lot of things. Like when I was, you know, got jumped by 13 guys because I was with my best friend. He was black and I was white, you know. And we used to have roving gang kicking our doors in, and you know. And then we went through a lot of stuff coming out of that. And then I moved to San Jose, California. And grew up there for the second half of my life. And I was a track star kind of in high school. And then I, you know, was always wanting to kind of get to Southern California. So I went to school at UCI and came down here and, you know, got off the plane and saw the palm trees and just said, oh, this is it, I'm staying.
You saw it. You saw it.
Yeah.
And so like, did you have an early mentor, you know, somebody that really kind of steered your brain in the right direction? Who was that?
I was a really avid reader. I started reading when I was about 3, and I just read everything I could get. I just devoured everything I could get my hands on, books, comic books. I was kind of a nerd, you know, growing up, and I was kind of equal parts like reading comic books and, you know, Superman and, you know, all that, and then at the same time reading books. So like, you know, I would read Hemingway and For Whom the Bell Tolls, and you know, Jack London and Thomas Hardy, and you know, I read all these great authors growing up, and so that was really my mentor, was books and comic books. To be honest, you know, I grew up with a single mom. We had, you know, she had 3 boys. One of them had Down syndrome, and you know, I kind of like escaped into books and reading, and it developed me a lot, and so a lot of what I, you know, a lot of what I have today came from just reading so much. So readers are leaders, right?
Yeah, totally. And so was there, I mean, because you played sports, obviously, and you were great in track. I mean, did some of those coaches kind of guide you at all? I mean, what did you take from sports and success? How did that affect you?
You know, really, like, if you want to do well at anything in life, you have to be relentless. And to be relentless, you have to be mentally tough. And that's really what you learn in sports. You learn to fail, and you learn to get back up, and you just learn to develop kind of a relentless mindset that, you know, you kind of develop a mindset that it doesn't matter what hits you. It just doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, you know, and you just stay focused on your goal. So, you know, I was very lucky, particularly in track. I had a really great coach, Bob Slover, who coached a lot of Olympians and coached a lot of people that made the Olympics, and he himself made the Olympic trials. And I was around all these Olympians growing up in San Jose, California, people that, you know, John Powell and Mac Wilkins, guys that, you know, won medals in the discus, and Bruce or Caitlyn Jenner or whatever the name is, and Miller Hampton. And, you know, I was around a lot of like world-class athletes. And so when you're around that, you kind of just, you know, glom onto that mindset. But really it's just, you know, whether it's business or life or anything, it's, you know, mental toughness is essential. And mental toughness is really just about being able to get back up. You know, it's about not letting things, no matter how hard you get hit, it's about not letting things not keep you down.
And so was there a time that you could remember as maybe, you know, a younger person? Was there a time where you got knocked down pretty good? As a story that you could remember at all? Anything?
Oh my gosh. Every week.
Okay. All right.
Every week. Yeah. We, you know, I mean, we were poor growing up. So I remember, my senior year in track and field, I was pretty good. And me and this other guy kind of had the, you know, you get to the end of the track season, there's always the championship races, and we kind of came down to the final race of the year, and me and this other guy were like the two best guys, in the county, and I hadn't eaten in 5 days because we were just bored. And I took a close second in that race, and it was hard. It was crushing. It was crushing because I knew I could have won that race. And so you have to adjust your mindset. And I just looked at it like, I won the fasted championship. Like, that's what it was. I came in first place for like fasting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like that. Okay. And so is that kind of like the sports and hanging around all these athletes, and is that what got you interested in health and wealth, and health and wellness and things like that?
It was there from day one in my life. My mom was always like, like when the Olympics were on, she would, point that out. And I don't know, it was always there. And, so about age five, so I've lived a long time, like 1 billion years. And there was only 3 channels, like way back then. One of them was, used to have Jacko Lane. And so I was, a little 5-year-old kid. I'd get up, in my Tigger onesie, and, Jack wore a onesie. So that was pretty cool. And I would just do whatever he did. And then I just kind of got hooked. And it literally became part of my life from about 5 years on. So I started, just making up personal training routines at 7 and trying to indoctrinate my family. And, they weren't very interested. And then I just wanted to get the running craze kind of came around in the early mid 70s. And I just kind of saw that and started, well, I can run. I started running and doing, cross country by myself. And then about 5th grade, I really wanted to get fast, and I always wanted to be a sprinter. So I started going to the blacktop at school and just running intervals every day during the summer, just trying to get faster. And, we had all these Olympic athletes at my high school. So I would go there and just do clean and jerks for hours and hours and hours. So it was always part of my life, growing up. And I never did it as a living. I never, made a living being fit. I was always a regular person. I was just kind of obsessed with whatever was new, like a lot of people nowadays.
And so what was that first new craze that came out that you could remember that got you really starting maybe to study even more, maybe just raised your game, or how did you monetize it? Where did that start?
That didn't happen until decades later for me. Yeah. So for me, the 80s was just being a consumer. The 90s was trying everything and anything. I've told this before, but on the late 80s, I think I was in college around 89, 90, 91. And the MCTs came on the market, and there was a company named Champion Nutrition that made a thing called a metabolic optimizer. And on the label, it said, these are the fatless fat, like you can't get fat. And I was like, that's impossible, because during that era, like the thing was like, fat is bad, stay away from fat, everything's low fat, don't have fat. So like this was so counter culture that, I became like really fascinated with like, how's that possible that fat can't make you fat? And I was in college at the time at UCI, and I was pretty good in science, so I took some nutrition classes, and I really wanted to understand just for myself how all this stuff worked. And that led to like, it led to a period in the early 90s where Metrics came out, and it was in 2 cans at the time, and Bill Phillips was the marketer of it. And I was like first in line, probably one of the first 100 customers, and I got on that stuff, and I got absolutely peeled, like ripped to the bone. And what happened, that started for me, that really started the path for me, because essentially I was doing what you call intermittent fasting and time restricted feeding. I read an article that was published by Jeff Everson that said, you just eat 1 meal a day at dinner and then just do metrics the rest of the time whenever you're hungry. And that's what I was doing. And I did that for years, and I was ripped. I mean, I was like under 5% body fat. And so what happened was for about 3-4 years, I was really ripped. And then this uncontrollable eating started. And I didn't know about leptin or how that worked then. And I just knew that I had done something. And it started me on this journey to figure out what I'd done, because I'd never had a problem eating, and I couldn't stop eating. So, and then I went all these different sort of things. Like I did kind of clean, whole, raw, organic, for a while. That didn't really work out. And then I did macro counting, and that didn't really work out. And kept having the same story for like about a decade, where I would, I'd try some new protocol, I'd get really lean, and then I'd get this bounce back later on, and it didn't really solve my problems. And then what happened to me was in the early 2000s, I went with a startup company, wound up becoming CEO. And, we had a typical startup run where you're just working 14 hours a day. You're working your butt off. And it's all stress, and you're growing fast, but it's a good problem to have, but you're trying to keep up with your problems. So I went from being like very low body fat, fit when I came into that, and then just 260 pounds of fat at the end of that. And that's what changed everything for me, because I had given 30 years to the fitness, paradigm of like, well, you just got to put the time in. And then what happened to me was that everything I knew required time that I didn't have. And it just changed everything for me. So that was when the path that I'm on now began, because I realized most stuff doesn't translate out of the fitness ecosystem into the real world ecosystem most people live in. And the primary reason is time constraints. That's the primary reason. So, whenever anybody wants to get their health in order, they go, you go talk to somebody. And no disrespect to anybody who's in the ecosystem of being fit. There's so many wonderful and just amazing people that I've met in that industry. But the point is to just understand that ecosystems, solutions must be designed specific to the ecosystem they're in. And if they're not, then they're not going to work. And so the problem I encountered was that all of the solutions I was using weren't designed for the ecosystem of social eating and travel and flights and eating on the go and pressure and stress and cancel our plans this weekend. The software broke. We got to, all that kind of stuff. And so it really led me down this road that today is what it is. And it was just really, it really came down to one thing. And it's that if it doesn't work over time, it's not going to work. And the only way it's going to work is if it works when time is zero. And that's the equation that changed everything. Because if it doesn't work when you have no time, it's not going to work long term. Because in the real world, time resources invariably will get constrained.
So you're basically saying that, it's great that you have a trainer. It's great that you go to the gym, but that's not necessarily always going to be available to you. The gyms just all got shut down because of COVID. People can't go to the, are people putting on a lot of weight right now? I don't know if there's studies going on right now, but are people just getting, because of the gyms are closed and people don't, obviously they could do stuff at home, but they're probably not doing it. So what do you say about all that stuff?
I'd say that you need a new paradigm. The old paradigm we had, it kind of had its run, and we gave it 70 plus years, and it kind of had its run. But it's time for a new way of thinking about things. It really is. And I'm not just saying that, to pimp some book or something like that. But I'm just telling you what I've been doing for 15 years. And what I've been doing for 15 years is very, very different from what most people think of. Like I eat, I work out about once a week, and I'm 55. So I don't work out that much. But I do something every day, but it's like in intervals of 20 seconds. But an actual workout, going to the gym about once a week. I don't meal prep. I don't do any steroids, never have. And I do everything on the go with food. I do very little meal prep. So most of what I do is on the run. And that is the system that most of us need, is a way to get there and stay there with that. Really, the essence of hacking is taking time into consideration. That's the essence of hacking. And I think that's the era that we've stepped into, is really understanding how the body actually works, because most of what we've been taught has nothing to do with how the body actually works. And it's crazy that the farther you dig into it, particularly fat loss, we all think certain things about fat loss. We think oh, I'll just lose the fat and then that solves the problem. That's not how things work. The reality is that the act of shrinking fat cells promotes weight gain long-term. And it's a starvation survival reaction, and it's contrary to everything we've learned. So really it's about kind of taking everything that we thought we knew, and in this new normal, if you want to call it that we're in, it's rethinking a lot of things. So part of what I do is eating anything, anytime. That's a big part of it. And I come to the position, unless you know how to do that, you're never, ever going to solve your problem.
So give us something practical, you crave ice cream and it's 11 o'clock at night. Nobody would ever tell you, in the old way of thinking, don't ever eat ice cream at 11 o'clock at night, because it's just going to sit in your belly for the whole night and you're going to get fat, right? That's what we're told. So why is that wrong, or how can we change that way of thinking?
Well, first thing to understand is that cravings are quite steerable, so that you can easily steer yourself out of craving ice cream. That's pretty easy to fix just by steering the bacteria in your gut. But I'll give you an example. I'm in this text group with some pretty well-known figures, Mark Bell, Ron Penna, founder of Quest, Carl Lenore, Superhuman Radio. And the question came out the other day of like, do you guys ever cheat? And, for most part, most of those guys are pretty strict dieters. They don't really ever cheat. And then it got to me and I was like, well, for Sunday, my breakfast was 3 bowls of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And then for dinner, I had pizza. and everybody was like, you're crazy. And so what I did was at the start of that, I actually did my body fat, I did my weight. And then by the time I finished the offset, which is kind of part of this thing that's in my book of the 2-day core pattern, which was Tuesday morning, I was exactly the same body fat, exactly the same weight, no difference whatsoever. So part of that new paradigm is understanding that this isn't about lifestyle. This is about skills. Skills solve problems. Lifestyle is an idea in your head that has nothing to do with anything. We're all in a lifestyle. It's called mechanization. That's the lifestyle we're in. Like, you want to solve the problem with lifestyle, go be a hunter-gatherer. That solves it. But learning how to offset when you eat whatever is a life skill, and it's very doable. It's actually quite easy. It's not that hard. It's just a skill. It's like jujitsu. Like if you don't know jujitsu and you get in a fight, you're going to get the crap kicked out of you. But if you do just a little bit of jujitsu, you're going to do pretty well. And so it's very similar in the way that you think. It's a skill.
So give us something practical. What's one of the skills or one of the tips that the average person, because the people that are listening to you right now, there's thousands and thousands of people that are business owners, entrepreneurs, small business owners, small entrepreneurs. And by the way, most of them right now, they're sitting at their home in front of their laptop doing appointments now. They don't even leave their house anymore. So it is like complete. I mean, at least they would walk to the car and drive and then walk out. Like they don't even do that anymore. So what's something practical that we could take away?
Let me give you 3 things. First is what I call the integrated interval. So here the basic concept is this, that the problem with going to the gym is going to the gym. That's the problem. Okay. Like if you try to maintain your teeth by going to the dentist 3 times a week, it's not going to work. It's too, so we all have a non-time intensive strategy for our teeth. It's called brushing them in a minute, in the evening, in the morning. And we all have a time intensive strategy to get our teeth in shape, which is, it's every 6 months you go in, you do the routine. So you have to adopt that kind of idea for your body. So the non-time intensive strategy doesn't involve any prep, doesn't involve any getting dressed or going somewhere. It doesn't involve any of that stuff. I'll tell you what I do, like literally, is probably 3 to 5 times a day. And my life is just like everybody you described. I'm at my computer, 24 hours a day. I'll get up without any warm up, and I will do something. I'll do an interval of 20 seconds, and I'll go right back to what I was doing. So my favorite is I'll go sprint, and I'll do it with no warm up, nothing. I just get up from the computer, walk outside, go run 150 meters, 200 meters, and then come back, go right back to work. That's what I do. Or, a simple adaptation is just like get up and 20 seconds of push-ups and back to work. Get up and 20 seconds of yoga flows and back to work. Get up. So integrating these intervals into your day will have a far, far, far more powerful impact long-term than working out well, than going to the gym. And I'll tell you, like, I've worked out very little in 15 years, but I've been doing these integrated intervals, and it's kept me young, and I talk about this in my book. The young body test is going from 0 to a full sprint with no warm up. That's because young bodies, kids and teenagers do that all the time. But most adults would just tear every muscle in their body if they tried to do that. So, I'm 55 and I do that routinely. Well, it's because as we age, what happens is you have a series of days where you lose 0.5% and you never get that percent back. And it happens in a day. Like one day you wake up and you're just at 0.5% less in some measurable dimension, and it's never coming back. What happens is if you can integrate these intervals into your day is you don't lose ground. You're just every day staying primed. And I talk about this in the book. This is called daily exertion. daily exertion is not working out. Like our ancestors didn't do workouts. They did exertion, but they did it every day, and the body adapts rapidly. So what I would suggest is pick one movement and start doing it for 20-second intervals, and try and work up to 3, 4, 5 in that one movement in a day. A really good one is if you have some decent arm strength and you can do 1 or 2 pull-ups, do pull-ups and watch what happens. Watch how fast your body adapts. In 3 weeks, you'll be at 15 or 20, guaranteed. That's how fast the body gets strong when you hit it every day. And then just you begin to incorporate that. And so that's a really big life. If you did nothing else other than just that, it'll change your life radically. And
well, I could say, Joel, that, I mean, I'm 45. And routinely people say that I look 30, or 35 or something like that, so I'm a 45-year-old man, but I've been doing my little workout routine. I don't go to the gym. I don't even remember the last time I went to the gym, maybe at a hotel or something like that. But I do my little routine in the house. I do my 60 push-ups every day. Like there's not a day that goes by. Right. I do 60 push-ups. I do like 20, 25 pull-ups. I actually, it's kind of cool because I have this VR now. This is pretty awesome. In the morning, I do like 4 or 5 rounds. I'm boxing with this guy in VR. Like I'm boxing against people in VR. So I'm totally working out. I'm drenched in sweat. I'm loving it. And it's fun. It's like, it's not a chore. I'm like excited to get up in the morning. And then there's this like shooting thing in the VR where I shoot 500 people and I'm ducking and moving and jumping around and all this. I mean, I'm telling you, like, so what you're saying is so right on. Like I've always kept moving, and I've always kept kind of consistent with little things that I'm doing. Push-up, I do 3 minutes this way on the push-ups, 3 minutes over here, maybe some planks, different things like that. And I just do it consistently every day. Every day. Yeah.
It's far, far more powerful than working out. Like, I did the work. Look, I've done the workout things like from the time Alonzo came around in the 70s. I mean, I was into it, and I've seen the journey. I've done this a long time, and I can tell you what I've seen. And no one can argue with what I've seen because it's what I've witnessed. What I've witnessed is all these dudes I knew that were icons, and like, wow, how do I look like you, and all that stuff. A lot of them are cripples or dead. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of them, they have very old bodies now, and a young body is something very different from like a bodybuilder's body. And look, I love bodybuilding. That was my first love, but in terms of like something that works over time in the real world and is not a sport, just something that regular people can do. What you and I are talking about will keep the body young, because there's a critical thing that happens as you age, and you got to get your arms around this. I'm speaking to the audience here. The quality of your blood declines. And what I mean by that is the viscosity of your blood declines, meaning your blood, it's not as viscous. It doesn't circulate as well as you get older. Not only that, there are very specific changes in immune cell populations in your blood. So the ability of the body to maintain and add muscle is 100% one-to-one linked to blood flow. And as your blood flow declines with age, what it does is it acts as an accelerant of the senescent inflammatory process. And so that day that passes where you just lost a 0.5% and it's not coming back has a whole lot to do with the ability of your blood to get to where it needs to get. So by doing the thing that you and I are talking about, it just never happens because you're pushing it every day through the body.
So what was that number 2? Give us the second tip of the day.
Yeah. So the second thing to understand is that you have to really think about body fat and what really happens with body fat and how it works when we eat. So a key concept to get in your mind is that you're always storing and burning fat. Always. Every day you are storing fat and burning fat multiple times in a day. So we all think that, like storing fat is this thing that, or burning fat's this thing you have to get into and do and push. But actually you're burning fat multiple times a day. The purpose of your body fat, the first purpose, is to keep you alive between meals. That's what it's for. So once you understand that, there's a principle in my book I talk about called offsetting. And the way that it works is if you take the body's natural rhythms for storing fat and burning fat and amplify them, amplify the periods where you're burning fat, minimize the periods where you're storing fat, you now have a tool that allows you to kind of eat freely and then offset at other parts of the day. It's a very, very real thing. So an example of this would be and I'm just going to run through this. So if in the audience, just in your mind, answer this in your own mind. When you wake up, are you burning fat or are you storing fat? Probably burning a bit of fat. As you get into just after lunch, are you burning fat? Are you storing fat? Probably storing a bit of fat. As you get to 5 o'clock and you haven't eaten, and you're hungry, are you burning fat or are you storing fat? You're probably burning fat. As you get post dinner, are you burning fat? You're storing fat. Probably storing. Deep stretch of the night, you're probably burning, right? So there's multiple points in the day where you're burning fat, multiple points in the day where you're storing fat. So the trick to offsetting food is understanding how to mitigate fat storage and amplify the periods where the body's burning fat. And so there's some techniques that you can put into place immediately, and they're simple. Like, let me just walk you guys through what I did on my famous 3 bowls of Cinnamon Toast Crunching Pizza day here. All right, so the first concept is called a preload meal. And a preload meal is a very small meal before a larger meal that affects the way that next meal is metabolized and changes a number of measurable factors. And there's a sort of new science of meal-to-meal sequencing, and it tells us kind of like what we already knew. Like if you ate like a big meal and cheesecake for dessert, you're not very hungry for a while. Like your next meal, it affects what you want to eat. Well, you can take that concept and you can apply it to the universe of foods to create all these effects at your next meal. So one of those effects is that you can actually lower the body's insulin response at a next meal with a previous meal. In other words, there's a concept called glucose area under the curve, GAC. And the way that curve looks, whether it's kind of high and spiky or more like a long rolling mound, has everything to do with whether or not you're going to store fat from the same number of calories or not. And so our goal is to take it from a high spike and stretch it out over time. And a way you can do that is with a preload meal. So what I did prior to my 3 bowls of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which I love, I had a whey protein shake 30 minutes prior, and I put some cinnamon in that and some olive oil, and then I had berberine with that. Berberine is a plant alkaloid. And so by taking those things, I'm creating a % reduction in the likelihood of fat storage. Now, I always say it's not a panacea. There's no panaceas, none. There's only 5% improvements, and there's 20 improvements of 5%. And that's what we're going for here, is clustering a number of these things together. And so that's kind of like the first hack. And what that does is it takes all that sugar, and you're still getting the same number of calories, but it's just distributing it differently, making it a little slower. And so the likelihood of storing fat from that is mitigated to some degree. Not completely, but to some degree. You're still going to store some fat. And then the next concept is with respect to, I wasn't planning on eating pizza that night. It just, that's how life is. You're planning on eating good, but then, hey, let's get pizza. And no, I shouldn't, but okay. Especially if the pizza shows up in the house, and then it's like, all bets are off, right? So, so the next trick with that is just understanding that.
So can I stop you real quick, Joel? Yeah. I wanted to ask something real quick, because I remember years ago, and I just want to get maybe clarification, but years ago, I went to an Anthony Robbins seminar, and he really talked a lot about the combination of foods. Yep. So when you were talking right now, it was kind of reminding me that just a little bit. I know your concept is different, but like, for example, like meat and potatoes, probably not the best combination, but I don't know. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Because I always have through the years stayed away from, if I have a great steak, I'm not going to eat potatoes with that steak. And he talked a lot about, there was this big chart. I remember this was probably 15, 20 years ago maybe, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a superpower. It's probably with respect to food, it's probably the greatest superpower you could ever get, because it's
really?
Very real.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so that's a real thing then.
Yeah. It's science-based. There's so much science over the last 10 years on this. Let's take the example of a potato that you've used and walk through that. And let me just show you, actually, you picked the perfect example. Let me show you this. Okay. So Let's take a baked potato. So baked potato by itself is a very high glycemic meal. It's got that glycemic spike, and so it comes out nice and hot, and it's really not the best thing for weight maintenance. Not that great. But now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a series of small shifts, a series of 5% improvements, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take a weight gain meal and turn it into a fat loss meal. Okay. And it's purely jujitsu. It's purely just knowing how to use techniques for food. So the first thing we would do is we would add that whey protein shake with the potato. Same shake I talked about. Okay. Now, let's just take the whey protein by itself, nothing else, just the whey. Now, there's good research on this. We'll get almost a 20% reduction in the peak under the glucose curve with that. So that's a 5% improvement, like a very small improvement, speaking metaphorically about the 5, but you get a very small improvement, but it's an improvement. The next step would be that we take that same shake and we back it off 30 minutes, okay? And by backing that shake off 30 minutes prior to that big potato, we're gonna get another 5% lift, okay? The next step would be letting the potato cool. So we let the potato cool 10 minutes, and what happens is the resistant starch, the sugars in the potato congeal into resistant starches that don't digest very well. See, when you heat long chain carbohydrates up, they break down into simple sugars. But when you let them cool back down, they recongeal. And those long chain fibers are resistant to digestion, so we don't actually absorb that much of it. The next step, so we're going to get another lift from that. The next step would be to add a little bit of butter to the baked potato. So a little bit of butter, a little small amount of fat is going to actually slow gastric emptying, and it's going to take that curve, that spike, and it's going to stretch it out just a little bit more, okay? Now, by themselves, none of these things are panacea, but I'm adding them up, and it's happening fast. Now, the next step would be to add a little bit of cinnamon to the whey protein shake. You're going to get another little bump, and then add a little bit of olive oil. We'll get a little more fat prior to the meal, and what that's going to do is we're going to actually eat a little bit less at the next meal. And I can just keep going on and on and on, and this is the essence of biohacking food, this is just know-how. It's not a lifestyle. It's not anything other than a skill. But what I've done is I've taken a weight gain meal and I've very quickly turned it into something that's very pro weight maintenance.
All right, back to your third tip.
Yeah, so yeah, I know.
I'm telling you, I could like literally do this for another 2 hours. I'm so like interested in what you're talking about, Joel. I mean, and so I'm just trying to keep it moving because otherwise I'll have you here all day long. So, but this is interesting stuff. I mean, awesome, Joel. You're doing a great job, man.
Yeah, sorry. I know if you're in the audience, I talk really fast and I'm just bolting through stuff at light speed. So you're going to have to probably replay this a few times here, but I'm trying to cram as much as we can into a short time. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the next concept to understand is that you're never actually eating a single meal. There's no such thing as a single meal. What you're always doing, whether you realize it or not, is you're always actually eating meals in sequences of 3. And let me explain a little bit about that. So what new research has shown over the last 10 years is the effect that meal-to-meal sequencing has based on certain foods. So a good example is if you have an egg in the morning, you're going to lower 24-hour total food intake by doing that. If you have barley cereal at night, you're going to be more insulin sensitive in the morning to a carbohydrate meal. And so there's all these sort of effects that are mappable and quantifiable with respect to what you have at one meal and how it affects the next meal. And so once you get this, the net of this is that you're always thinking of meals in terms of what you ate last, what you'll eat next, and that's always determining what you're eating now. And where this goes is a skill that allows you to eat anything, anytime. Now, there's a science word for eating anything, anytime. It's called ad libitum eating. And in the science, every single study that's ever been done on diet and fat loss, everything, every single one has a control group that always eats ad libitum. In other words, just eats whatever in the heck it wants, okay? And the reason for that is that eating ad libitum, or eating whatever in the heck, is the inborn natural behavior of all mammals, and humans are mammals. So and if you're a parent, you know this. Like kids will eat whatever they want. You have to train them. You have to watch them to get them to discipline themselves with eating. And it's true of dog, it's true of any animal. We're all innately wired to eat whatever, whenever. So unless you gain the ability to eat whatever, whenever, you're never going to be successful, because it's your innate behavior you're fighting. Okay. So once you get that what you're eating right now is a product of this meal and the meal to come, then this meal, it doesn't really matter if it's a weight gain meal, because the previous meal can offset it and the next meal can offset it. And so I'm always doing that. I'm always offsetting the current meal with the previous meal and the next meal. And that's a meta concept. But let me kind of give you like a quick practical application of that. Okay. So let's suppose that I know that I have a business dinner, and I'm going to go out and we're going to go to a steakhouse, and I'm probably going to have a couple martinis. Okay. With the steak. It's a very real scenario, right? So in the old way of thinking, I have to avoid everything. Like, oh, well, I really can't have steak. I should have a salad. I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't do all that stuff. Okay. In this new framework I'm giving here, I'm going to go eat steak and 2 martinis, and I'm just going to offset it all. And so here's an example how I would do that. So first of all, we've got to compensate for alcohol intake. What alcohol does is it does not convert to fat. Instead, it gets converted into acetaldehyde and then acetate, which is a short-chain fatty acid. And it competes against carbs and fats. So it has preference. So if carbs and fats are present when alcohol is present, then the carbs and fats are stored. So the other thing alcohol does is it depletes the body's key antioxidants like glutathione, and it depletes our B and C vitamins. So prior to drinking alcohol, my meal prior to that, I'm gonna go to this whey protein shake, and it's not the only thing in the inventory of meals, but it just so happens to be appropriate for this, because whey protein upregulates a class of amino acids called the large neutral amino acids. These are the serotonin precursors, and it helps to boost glutathione. So prior to drinking, I want to get the body's reserves of glutathione as high as I can get them. And then at dinner, prior to dinner, I want to have an emergency, one of those little orange drinks. And what that's going to do is it's going to load the body up with B and C vitamins that alcohol is going to deplete. Then at dinner, I want to have broccoli and asparagus with that meal, because broccoli actually upregulates gene regulation of 2 key enzymes you need to metabolize alcohol. And it's been shown that it increases the amount in the cytosol within the cell of those enzymes. And so it actually speeds up alcohol metabolism. And then asparagus also stimulates alcohol dehydrogenase and other enzymes. So basically the foods I'm having are offsetting the alcohol. And then I'm just going to have a nice steak with that. Now, the fibers in the broccoli and the asparagus they're mostly fibers. You don't really digest those. And the steak, if you have a lean steak, it's just protein for the most part. So I've kind of already offset the whole meal completely. Like, I'm not going to gain a pound from it just by these hacks. But then the following morning, I could have a meal that's more aggressive for fat loss. So I could have like an egg white omelet, chop up some asparagus, some onions, put some hot sauce on it, a little bit of cheese, and then just have like 8-10 egg whites in that, and then go like 3-4 hours, and I've completely offset the whole thing.
See, that's awesome. And I know that, do you still do intermittent fasting as well, or really, what do you think about that? I know that's kind of a big rage right now. What do you say about that?
You have to be careful.
Okay.
So if you look at what happened to me in the 90s, you've got the way leptin works in the body is it upregulates very long term. So you can have a few successful years with intermittent fasting and think you've just conquered everything. But what will happen is, as you get into years 4 and 5, you're going to be eating uncontrollably. I talk to people every day who are coming into year 2 and 3, and now they're just like, I can't stop eating. What's going on? So there's a value to fasting, but you have to factor in a lot of factors with it. It's not just this. The first thing to understand is the reason that you fast is to gain the benefits that are present during sleep that are actually stronger during sleep. Okay. It's like, if you inventory, why does fasting work? Autophagy, AMPK activation, HDAC inhibition, all these really big words. That's why fasting works. You go, great. Well, where else do we see those? During sleep. What time? 2 to 4 a.m. Oh, and they're much, much stronger. Oh, what does fasting do? It disrupts sleep. So you have to, it's not as simple as just, I'm doing a 5-day fast or a 4-day fast. It's this reductionistic idea that you can just do this one thing and it doesn't affect anything else. what I've done in my book is I've kind of put it all together into this pattern that you do over 2 days and you just keep repeating. And the goal of the pattern is to amplify fasting while minimizing the time that you fast. And so by doing that, you're getting the benefits of fasting, but you're also getting great sleep. You're also getting optimal gut communities, and you're just taking everything into account. That's what I would say with that.
Okay, last question, just because it just popped in my brain right now, because we talk about gut communities and gut health and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like stuff like kombucha, is that good for you?
Well, yes, but I prefer, so the issue gets to fermentation, okay? There's a key concept you have to understand. Fermentation is how the body makes bacteria. For every 100 grams of substrate that you ferment, you're going to make 30 grams of bacteria, okay? So put that into a practical reality. It's much better to ferment the bacteria in your own body than it is to take it in already fermented. And the reason has to do with getting good bacteria in the wrong place. Like the gut knows where to ferment what. And when we start taking in things that, are already have bacteria, already rich in bacteria in certain ways, then you run the risk of getting good bacteria in the place that they shouldn't be. And so it's not that it's bad, it's a good thing. Like I drink kombucha, I like it and get a little buzz off it, I guess. But I just moderate it, that's all. Everything in moderation.
Absolutely. I love that. Actually, I've lived by that. Everything in moderation. I mean, I don't drink a whole lot, but I can have a drink whenever I want. I don't eat a whole lot. My buddies would make fun of me in high school and they would say, how come you're not eating 2 double doubles? And I'm like, well, one hamburger is fine. I'm good. Maybe a little bit of French fries and something, but it's like everything in moderation. And it's helped me, at least personally, it's helped me. Hey, look, man, this has been phenomenal, Joel. I mean, this is the first time we've ever met, and I hope we develop some sort of friendship because, you got a lot to say. And I know that a guy like you has the ability to impact so many people. And I just know that, because I see so many people overweight and it just, I'm not a doctor of science, I haven't studied this stuff to the degree you have. And just by talking to you, I'm just thinking, man, number one, I'm doing a lot of things right, kind of, sort of. But I also think that, a guy with your credibility, man, could really make an impact on so many people. And so thank you for writing the book. I'm going to go out and get the book. I hope that my audience goes out and gets your book. So tell me the book's name again, and where can we get that?
Yeah, it's VEEP Nutrition. So the book is The Immunity Code, and you get it at veepnutrition.com. I don't have it on Amazon right now intentionally. I'm piloting a better way for authors to make this thing work, and it's working really well. So just get it direct from us. You can get the audiobook, you can get the digital, and you can get all that stuff there, veepnutrition.com. And yeah.
How else can we get a hold of you if somebody has a question for you or they just want to say hi? How can they do that?
Instagram is great. So go to Instagram. I do my best to respond. I can't, sometimes it's hard. I can't get to everybody, but I do my best. And then you can also email us at support@veepnutrition.com. And, we've got a really good support team. They're really good at getting back very fast.
Fantastic. Well, this has been so insightful. Thank you so much, Joel. I just want to remind everybody to share this podcast like crazy. Follow both of us on Instagram if you haven't already done so. And I just want to let everybody know we're still signing people up right now for Wealth on the Beach Club. Every hour you get a full hour, every week you get a full hour with me, Q&A lessons and question answers. Check out alonzoacademy.com for more details. As always, check out my YouTube channel for lots and lots of free valuable content. And as always, make sure that you are dreaming bigger than ever, but make sure you do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.